Welcome everyone. I'm Blake from Bourbonr. This is the 2018 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection review. So we're live on Facebook. So I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to go ahead and jump in the chat. So if you're already on, go ahead and if you ask any questions. So this one is probably going to be. Hold on one second. Slide this over. I'm trying a new camera setup, but it's the setup works pretty well. But then it's hard to see my laptop to answer any questions. So there we go. Okay, perfect. But this one's going to be the review for probably just the Rise, and then maybe the Eagle Rare 17, just depending on how I'm feeling. Try to do all five in one night seems like gonna get some real palate fatigue, so I don't want to burn out. Want to be able to give good reviews, but also don't want to string this thing along across an entire week. But 2 to 3 whiskeys shouldn't be an issue to go ahead and get those done. Although after the Bourbon and Beyond weekend, was trying to give my palate and stomach and everything else a little time to recuperate. But all right. Okay, audio's good. That's good to hear. I did some adjusting, so hopefully you won't see This Is Us in the background or hear This Is Us in the background. That was a big debate in the house tonight, whether I'd be doing this live review or if my wife would be watching This Is Us. So I think we found a compromise, which is good. But all right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the lowest proof first. Typically, you want to start with lower proof and work your way up to the higher proof whiskeys. And I don't love doing that because the Sazerac 18 is always a favorite of mine. So I kind of like having that as a last. But since it's 90 proof, we're working with that first. But that's kind of one of the big ones. So if you're unfamiliar with the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, it's a release that comes out every year. There's 5 whiskeys in it. So you have the Thomas Handy, the Sazerac 18 year, the Eagle Rare 17 year, the George T. Stagg, and then the William LaRue Weller. So 2 of those are rye and 3 of them are barrel proof. So the 2 ryes are the Thomas Handy and the Sazerac, and then the barrel proofs is the Thomas Handy, the George T. Stagg, and the William LaRue Weller. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit of the Sazerac 18 year. So like the name states, it is 18 years old and 90 proof. So there was, and the thing about that Sazerac 18 year, especially last year, is Buffalo Trace had a lot of this stocked up. Not stocked up. So they were holding it in stainless steel tanks for several years. They had dumped the barrels, it hit 18. They didn't want it to go past because who knows, they thought it was great at 18 years old. They didn't want to take the risk of letting it age longer. So they put it in stainless steel tanks, and then they slowly released it every year until 2017. In 2017, they took their own distillate, their own rye, that was finally hit 18 years old and released it under Sazerac 18. So, a lot of people thought it was down. It was not as good as the tank stuff, but it's kind of hard to tell. You're kind of splitting hairs at that point. Last year's was really good. Was it as good as prior years? No, it wasn't, just to be honest. But still, an 18-year-old rye is something that's hard to come by, and it's something that's really good, really unique flavor profile. Yes, Kenny, the hat has survived. My spare hat is still in Breaking Bourbon's backpack, so I'm going to need that shipped down to me as well. So, but let's jump into the review. Initially, it's a lot of these fruity notes. It's a lot of just melon, berry, leather, a lot of dry leather, some kind of toasted oak, like toasted coconutty kind of something a little more almost like a charred tropical fruit note. There is a little heat coming off of it, which is interesting. So I'm going to let this sit for a second. Nose is sweet. You're getting a little more of the mint from the rye. Not a ton though. All right, let's give it a sip. Okay. All right. So for those of you just joining, this is the 2018 Sazerac 18 year. It's dry. It's tannic. There's more of the chard coming out. A little bitterness. A little like dark cocoa bitterness. Yeah, I'm kind of. It is a little bit different. It's than the others, and I'm going to compare these to prior years. So I have a where'd it go? Sazerac 18 from 2015 that is from the tanked Sazerac rye, which I believe it came from Old Medley. Somebody correct me in the comments if I remember finding it or somebody confirming that source, but I believe it was Old Medley Distillery that it was distilled at and moved over to Buffalo Trace in one of the acquisitions. But it is a little hot on the nose. It's more spicy, not as much depth in the fruit flavors and kind of the caramel and vanillas as I'm used to. The taste and finish is just a little dry and tannic. Add a little bit of water to it. And while I let that water sit there for a second, I'm going to put a little bit more because I probably didn't have enough to really get a good, let it open up a little bit with the water. I'm going to go ahead and pour the 2015 version. So, it's always kind of nice to have a little bit of a constant on these things to have that benchmark of what we're trying to hit. Now, take into consideration. So, these earlier bottles, so 2016 and prior, were all from the exact same distillate, same barrels. They just sat in steel tanks. But if you taste them between the years, there's actually still some flavor difference, even though it's the exact same whiskey. So probably some additional oxidization of the whiskey or something like that. But and this is sat in a bottle where you can see it's probably what we call that, probably a little over half full. So continues to oxidize in the bottle as well. I mean, I hate to say it, but the nose right away is just completely different. So, and just kind of, we'll sidetrack here for a second. If you didn't see that Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond 6-year, the Kentucky only release, which is like what I think they basically, if you give them a free Whopper Junior, they give you a bottle of this in Kentucky. It's now going away. So stock up and trade for all your Sazerac 18 in like 2 years. Yeah, this is just much more sweeter berries, cinnamon, a little bit of orange peel, much more depth. Nice sweet roundness, golden raisins, some caramel. Yeah, I'm going back to the so the Sazerac 18, the 2018 version has actually I spilt some. I'm just gonna see if I can smell it off the table. It's opened up a little bit more with a little bit of water, which that usually happens, but there's a little more sweetness coming through. But I don't know about this one. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see other reviews. To me, the Sazerac 18 is it's not the same just much more tannic, much more, just almost bitter to a point. And to me, a lot of the kind of the fruit and the cinnamon, the spice, that kind of stuff just gets muted by the overpowering tannicity. What would be the plural of tannic notes? Tannins. That's what it's going to be. Yeah. So I'm always been a big proponent that age is not always better. It's really cool to try something that's 18 years old, but from a flavor profile, gonna have to go with not my thing. Not to say that's bad. It'll still sell for who knows what on the secondary, but if you're looking to drink, probably not going to go with that one first off. All right, next we're going to break into the Eagle Rare 17. Rinse these glasses a little bit. Oh yeah, that 2015 and just blows it out of the water. Okay, so for this one, we have the 2018 Thomas Handy, 128.8 proof. Let me pull up my notes. If you're looking for a good way to keep track of all this, go to Breaking Bourbon. They have a great infograph on it. So we have the 2018 Thomas Handy is 120.8 proof. It is 6 years and 4 months old. They selected 73 barrels. Let's see, 25.5% evaporation loss, and then that gives us an estimate of about 14,548. Buffalo Trace never confirms this number, but simple math will tell you there's only so many gallons in a barrel. Evaporation loss tells us how much they lost. When it's barrel proof, it's really, really easy to figure out. So, checking my formula in Excel to make sure that is correct. Yeah, that should be correct. I think the breaking guys had the same number on that. So around 14,500 barrels. So let's get started in this one. And this is the first crack of the barrel or of the bottle. So we'll do this in one take. All right. Let's see. And then for my quality control, I have it's 126.9 proof Thomas Handy. So that was that's 2015. Okay. I was thinking that was 2017. Oh, well, that's all right. Still, I still think Thomas Handy, which I guess none of them are underrated anymore, but it's always been really good. It's by far the youngest in the group by like a decade. Well, not a decade, but so at least 6 years. And to me, it is always really strong. So, all right, 128.8 proof, 2018 Thomas Handy. Here we go. Yeah, so off the bat, I'm getting toffee, butterscotch, a little bit of black pepper in there. You don't even get the 14,500 bottles, not barrels. Good point, Brian. Get a little bit of the heat, but it's not overpowering. Yeah. And to me, the Thomas Handy, It always drinks more like a bourbon. I think it is that high corn rye recipe or high corn rye whiskey recipe that they're using. So you get some of the grain, you get the sweetness, but there's black pepper. There's almost like a blackberry note. Some other slight fruitier notes, but good sweetness. There's a little graininess on the nose. I'm interested to try this next to one of the older releases. So I swear it almost drinks like a bourbon. I don't get as much as the fruit. I get a little bit of the spice, but when I think of the Thomas Handy profile, it's like just tons of fruit. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of water in the 2018, and then I'm going to jump into the 2015. No marzipan yet. We're looking for that, though. It's coming. See, in the 2015, has more of that mintiness, more of the almost like a bubble gum note. That is just subtly sweet. There is some of the mint, some of the toffee. Actually, kind of interested to see what they say their flavor notes are on this. Allspice, tea berry, clove. I see the allspice. I don't know what tea berry is, and I don't get much of the clove. See, I do in the 2015, I get more of like the almost like white tea. Maybe that's what a tea berry is, but almost like a white tea or like a peach tea on the finish. Hmm. Oh man, I hate to go 2 for 2 on the prior year, but this one is, I don't know, it's just got like a graininess to it and a little lack of depth that I'm looking for. Still good, but yeah, I'm going prior release on this one too. So 2015 would have to take this one. Um, it's yeah, it's good. It's barrel proof. It's rye whiskey. It's 6.5 years old, um, and it's really good to drink. So we're kind of holding it to a really really high standard here, which is probably a little bit unfair considering they release this every year. But hey, that's we don't get paid to do this, so I guess we'll make up our own rules. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'll go with the 2015 over the 2018. Which I'm kind of like I said, I'm being a little aggressive in my ratings, but that's kind of the fun part about the antique collection because we all know it's great whiskey compared to what's out there. We all know it's going to be impossible to find or super expensive. It's just interesting to see how they come up with a new release every year. And that makes it fun. It's part of the hunt. It's, when you finally find a bottle and join it with friends, that's what makes it fun. All right. Well, I'm not feeling too bad, so I'm going to do one more. Let's see. What are we at? 20 minutes. Okay. I can knock another one out. All right. So I'm thinking I will do the Eagle Rare, and then that way I can save the 2 barrel proofs for tomorrow. All right. So for the Eagle Rare, where'd I put it? Oh, here it is. This is the Eagle Rare 17-year-old. So what's interesting about this is if you go in and get really nerdy and pull up the press releases in the Buffalo Trace does the asset letters or trade assets, whatever it is on these. Let me pull it up for 1 second. So you go into it and you see that it's actually an 18-year-old bourbon. Now, it's age stated as 17. They've done this in the past. I think it was 2014 or 2015 where it was actually 19 years old. But you see it's exactly the same as last year's bourbon, just a year old. In fact, some of it was pulled from the exact same floors, first and second floor. So the 2018 was pulled from the first, second, and fifth floor. The 2017-year-old version was distilled in the same time. Exact same stuff, pulled from the first, second, and third floor. They say production age at bottling is 18 years and 4 months. So apparently Buffalo Trace is sitting on a ton of aged stock because they also have the Eagle Rare Double or Double Eagle or Albatross, whatever they're calling it, which is supposed to be a 20-year-old Eagle Rare, I believe. So that's it is interesting to see that, you know, most are probably having trouble hitting a 6-year-old age statement on some whiskeys, or Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare. They're just saying, you know, it says 17 on the bottle, but we'll throw something 18 years in it. So let's see. This is the 2018 version. And I have the 2014 version. And let's see, 2014 was, so 2014 was one of the 19-year-old bourbons. So I feel like this is a pretty good comparison. It's a little closer than if I did last year's, which was a 20 or a true 17-year-old version. So let's take a look. All right. This is 2018 Eagle Rare 17 from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. So, I mean, I said earlier with the Sazerac 18 that I'm not a huge fan of really aged products, but Eagle Rare, for whatever reason, has always held up really well to age. This is, you know, brown sugar, nutmeg, orange peel. You know, a little bit of the vanilla, typical bourbon notes, but you get some of the leather, some of the little bit of the tobacco, but not like heavy tobacco, which you expect in an 18-year-old product. That's good. Yep. That just, the taste is the brown sugar, nutmeg, orange peel. It fades to a little bit of oak, but just not much. It's almost like a toasted coconut, some almonds, that kind of thing. Almost has like a candied almond taste to it. Like almond extract, dried cherries. I mean, that's good. That's a really good bourbon. And of course, you know, the one I'm going to say is good is the one that's most limited. That was not on purpose. So there are 1,800 bottles, well, almost 1,900 bottles. The big thing, or the big story on the 2018 Eagle Rare, was they moved it to 101 proof. So that's kind of a throwback to old time Eagle Rare when it was made at Lawrenceburg, and they did a lot of 101 proof releases. And even back, I think there was a New Orleans Eagle Rare originally. I forget. I got to go back and look at all that stuff. But so that's a traditional proof, but The 101, it's mostly known for Wild Turkey, but Eagle Rare was one of the first ones to actually do that. But that's really good. It's thick, it's viscous. The 101 proof, I think, helps it out a lot. Yeah, that's good. All right. I'm going to compare it to the 2014 version now. Yeah. I mean, not to say maybe it's mental because I know there's a proof difference, but it almost tastes a little more watery, and that sounds bad to say at 90 proof, but it's same, a little bit of sweetness. It's almost a little more tannic, a little more of the oak, a little more oak forward than the 2018. So Eagle Rare 2018, that's been my favorite so far. Not to say that any of them are bad, but maybe I will say Sazerac 18 is bad because I'm going to have to go back and try that one because wasn't a huge fan, at least in my first tasting. So I'll give it another sip tomorrow or let it sit for a couple days and try it again. But all right. So that's going to be it for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the reviews. Quick recap. Sazerac 18 year, wasn't a huge fan, a little too dry, a little too tannic. Thomas Handy 2018 version, kind of the same situation. I thought it was a little bit better than the 18 year, but was a little too grainy, a little hot for me, a little more on the tannic side as well. But the 101 proof Eagle Rare 17, I think, is a huge hit. Not only from the increase in the proof, but just a lot of great bourbon notes in there. Usually what I'm looking for in a bourbon. So that is very, very exciting to see with the new proof and everything. And it's 18 years old, not even 17. So come back tomorrow. Going to review the George T. Stagg and the William LaRue Weller. Hope you enjoy these reviews tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to include them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them. Thanks. Bye.